So getting out of Forest Park and its exercise area, we hit the final part of Myrtle Avenue, which is kind of a transition area. There's a mixture of homes, and I remember some funeral homes. There's this interesting marquee that was, I guess, abandoned, and it looked like it was a flea market on Sundays, but of course that's not going either.
Yeah.
And from there, then we come in contact with the elevated train once again, a theme of Queens, the elevated train tracks, which I really enjoy the aesthetic. Jesse and I were talking about it a lot. You can almost expect to find the same types of shops.
It's a similar vibe for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So I'd say that elevated train area near Myrtle Broadway and the earlier part of Myrtle
Mm-hmm.
maybe has slightly more bars and restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
like sit down bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
And then this other part of the elevated train that we're talking about right now, where the J line runs on Jamaica, I would say less bars, still some restaurants to sit down at, and more counter service, or like, what would you call, like the type of restaurant that you walk in and there's like prepared food behind a glass or plexi
Well,
or
it's kind of like
something,
a
and
cafeteria style.
kind of cafeteria, and like there might be a counter in the back that you can sit at, or like it's a takeout situation.
Yeah.
But I feel, and those restaurants certainly are throughout. Like that type of restaurant is throughout the elevated train area in Brooklyn and Queens.
Yeah.
And then yeah, lots of 99-cent stores and delis and specialty stores for food, like Caribbean stores and West Indies stores, like that sell like very, very small delis
Mm-hmm.
that sell spices and like really specialty stuff. You don't go in there to get like a bag of chips and a Snickers bar or something. You go in there to get like, I don't even know, like like if you're cooking a special meal that, you know, comes from a certain region, you go to get like the spices and the maybe the type of bread that is used or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And those seem to be always there. Small like doctor's office, like specialty doctor's offices, and very small like tax preparer and like notaries.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a crossover with respect to the route this week. We don't actually walk on the same streets for any meaningful amount of time, but we do hit a crossroads at one point between the very start and the very end. So
Yeah.
this kind of storefront is describes both the kind of the start of the walk and the end of the walk. And yeah, I mean, I particularly out in the Queens areas that we've seen this past month, it is as Jesse described. And I think you're right. The area closer to where your studio is does have a lot more bars and whatnot as well.
Yeah. Well, like it seems kind of like the elevated track streets. It's mostly businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because living right next to the elevated track. I mean,
Well,
there's always apartments above,
Yeah.
but it's
Ground
not
floor is
often
all
like
commercial.
full apartment building. Yeah, it seems like the ground floor is almost always commercial, with minor exceptions here and there. And then, yeah, I mean, it makes sense for a number of reasons. Like living on the ground floor under the elevated tracks would be a very unique experience. And then it's also, the train is stopping every 10 blocks or so. So people are there.
Yeah.
People are walking on that street. that's where they're going to want to do their shopping.
Yeah.
But it usually seems like sort of like the basics.
Yeah.
Whereas then over near where my studio is, I feel like it's sort of been developed and gentrified, and I think that's where kind of the extra bars are coming in, because there's a lot of young people. There's a lot of like young people that are trying to go out and meet each other and do that whole scene.
Right.
Which I'm sure there's young people wanting to go out in all these areas, but it seems like the like purely bar vibe is just a little heavier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all that other stuff exists over like throughout the whole space.
Yeah. Yeah.